Folks at home, how you doing? Is this real this time? I hope you're having a wonderful Saturday night. I know we are. We're going to attempt to do an Ike Live show from the studio tonight. Feels good to be back here. Got a great crew here tonight for your enjoyment. Sitting to my right, we've got the one and only Pete Glusick, the Dean. Pete, how you doing?
Hey, everybody.
Good to see you.
It's good to be back.
We got Dave Brodzik sitting here to my left. He just went to take a leak or something. And producing the show tonight, we have Brian the Carpenter and Miss Rebecca. I think it's going to be an interesting show tonight. I think we've got some guests coming in, but this is really, Pete, most of the shows that we do, we have a note pad here in front of us with an outline of bullet points of what we're going to talk about. We have no show notes tonight. We're just going to wing it.
We only need 3 letters.
3 letters.
For tonight's notes.
Okay.
H-O-F.
H-O-F.
That's all you need.
Okay.
Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame. All right. Well, it's pretty amazing.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't think I've said that. Well, I've said it, without you there, but first time face to face.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Amazing.
No, it's incredible. I thank you. I appreciate that. It's an amazing thing. It's still hard to believe. What makes it more reality is the fact that Brian the Carpenter brought Colt 45s tonight.
That's a Hall of Fame drink.
Yeah, this is our beer choice. Every Hall of Famer should have a Colt 45. Dave, we were talking. Billy D. Williams was the spokesperson for. What would you put that at? Would that be early 80s? Are we talking?
That would have been I would say early 80s.
Early to
yeah.
mid-80s probably,
I'll
right?
tell you what, you will super impress me if you tell me what his name was on Star Wars. Only Mike.
Oh, Landon Calrissian.
Damn, all right.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think you'd get that.
Part of the reason
Lando Calrissian.
But part of the reason, Beck explained this. Now, I knew Lando Calrissian because why?
When Stella was real little and she saw all those movies, she had a major crush on Lando Calrissian.
So Estella at
2 or 3,
2, 3, 4 years old, fell in love with Billy D. Williams. And now to bring it full circle.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I got to tell you, he
Colt
might be
45.
one of the top 10 most charming dudes ever on TV. And amazing hair.
Yeah. Stella, mad crush.
Huh.
I would say that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get in the show, let me remind you, this is a cool night. We're back up here in the studio. Glad to have my friends here again, chatting, talking stuff. But we want to hear from you. If you have a question or comment, hit us up through the IM. You could also hit us up through the Ike Live social feeds. We'll be taking that. Big shout out to our military. Thank you guys for what you do. Police, firemen, EMTs. Thank you guys. Appreciate that. Pete, how you been? Everything good? How's Bash U?
Bash U is tip top. Matter
Awesome.
of fact, we're having a Hall of Fame Ike giant gift pack for all new subscribers to Bash U.
Wow.
So you want to go?
Is there a hammer in there to break stuff?
No, we went the other way. We went with like DT6, your colors, Ike's ink, and we have Missile, one of your mini flips, and
that's cool.
It's all Ike's Ike hat.
Wow,
it's a whole Ike pass. But Bash U is we're getting ready for classes. We're going to be in the classroom strong this year.
I saw the board. I saw the
ticket window is open.
Yeah, that's great. So you're looking at speakers and all that stuff.
Yeah, we're looking at speakers. There's a lot of like old, amazing. I say old, but super talented guys, right? But we got a whole new crop of phenoms that are really setting the trend and doing some things that are different. Really excited about our lineups for this year. We'll be announcing them pretty soon.
Very cool. Well, Dave, I walked out, came up here to come up here in the studio, and I saw this amazing brand new truck, just gorgeous.
It's amazing.
Beautiful brand new truck that I knew that you had gotten. I had heard the story. But in the back of the truck, it made my night. There's this flag. I felt like I could have been in Alabama or Georgia or somewhere. Yeah, because I see a lot of that down there. But you have a flag.
Yeah, I fly my Trump flag. I got to tell you. So I'm going to tell you. Over the last couple years, I've noticed more and more reception to it than I have when I first started flying.
How about that? Okay.
Although I did have a lady at an intersection, big fat lady, big round face, and I lost my temper, and I said something to her I probably shouldn't have. She had kids in the car, but she started it. She fired first by calling me an F and A.
Yeah.
So I told her
with the kids in the car.
So yeah, but when the windows were down, and I was like, we were kind of turning, so like I was like,
So what'd you clap back with?
Fat C.
Man, that's rough.
And I had my kids in the car. Immediately apologized to him. No, because man, she fired at me and it was unnecessary. Like I would never do that to her, you know.
I feel like the C word is only allowed to be said by people who have one.
I disagree.
You think?
Or
Yes.
if you're in Australia or
I hate
Britain,
that
because they
logic.
use it all the time. They use
Yeah.
it like dude.
Yeah, what's up with that?
What about the word Peyronie's disease? Who can use that?
Italians.
Yeah. Yeah, guineas.
I don't know if anyone should.
Anyone should.
Anyhow.
Words. Don't mean
Well, here's the
anything.
thing. You know,
Drop it off.
driving around, I see both. I see signage. You know, whether it's a flag or a big sign or like literally billboards in people's yards from both sides. Though, I see like Trump.
Nobody's-
No one
Nobody's-
has Biden shit.
No,
anywhere.
it's either for Trump or against Trump, and it's been that way for how many years now? No, stop it.
I've seen Biden.
There's
signs.
nobody that's for Biden. They're against Trump.
Well, you know what? That's not true,
No,
Brian.
that's
The
not
Biden
true.
people are driving in their cars by themselves with masks on. That's the Biden flag.
How do we get into politics?
Can we change the subject?
Yeah.
Yes,
Mike
quickly.
brought it up.
Well, we don't have. I just got done saying we don't have a script for the show, so who knows? We're just talking.
Were we
anything
supposed
today.
to?
I don't think so.
All right, why don't we discuss why we're here this
Oh, okay.
evening?
Go ahead, Beck.
To
Okay,
drink.
I guess I'm going to talk about why we're here.
Well, is he going to bring it up himself?
Yeah. What the hell are we here?
If you were here with the microphone.
Yeah, I've been recognized as one of the greatest of all
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Peter, you have a microphone.
I just congratulate. I said at the
Yeah.
beginning of the
Yeah.
show. I know you were
weren't on
busy.
air then.
You were busy.
Yeah.
But yes,
well,
we are.
listen,
We are
Now,
here.
Here's the thing. Let me interject real quick and say this. That I know this is a show that you guys put together here's the thing.
Not really.
This still doesn't even it doesn't even feel real because I'm just being honest. Like it doesn't feel like I should be in the Hall of Fame because I'm just, you know what I mean? Like I'm a Jersey scrubbo,
Skeet Reese
Fisherman.
might agree
Well-
with you.
you know?
What I started thinking about was I still look out my own eyes and I'm that
Same.
27-year-old guy that started fishing. You know,
Yeah.
I
Better
don't
get
I don't
glasses,
feel it. I don't feel like 25 years have passed.
I
Thanks,
know.
Thanks, B.
It's crazy.
Yeah, buddy.
But when you look back, I took a moment and I'm going back and I'm thinking about those early days and all that time that has passed.
Yeah.
It's a career.
It
It's a
is.
massive career.
It
And
is.
if you look back at your career, you hit milestones virtually. I mean, every step of the way. You know, there was hardly a time or a period where a significant accomplishment was not being made.
Agreed.
You know, throughout the beginning. I mean, I was listening back on an interview that I did with you. We're going to be broadcasting that here soon. But you know, you had that year of 1999, and in your assessment of that year, that may have been your best year
Yeah.
ever.
That was a pretty special year. Yeah.
And that, you know, you won the nationals. It was like a year and a half. You won you made the national, you won it. You know, you made the classic.
Placed.
Yeah.
You accomplished so much, and it was odd because it came after at the end of a bad period, right?
Yeah.
Where you had like a situation on the St. John
Oh, yeah.
River, but then after that it exploded
Yeah.
into one of your best
Yeah.
periods of time ever. And since '99, I mean, you went on to win the Classic, you went on to win Angler of the Year, you've won on the MLF side and everywhere in between. Over when FLW existed, it's been a monumental, you know, and
been a long time.
that's just tournament fishing. That's not
been a-
even-
it's
doesn't
It's not the
even
business side.
account for the
Yeah.
business side of it, which you know, you've influenced sponsorships, how sponsorships are written, how people, you know, how the kids today are learning about, you know, how to perform and do that job of a sponsored individual.
Yeah.
Bankrupt some sponsors.
Teach her how to bank.
Really, the only two things left really is owning a tournament trail and owning
I'm
an
out.
actual tackle company.
I'm out. I'm out on
There
that.
are really two things left, dude.
They're both two of off the radar ones for me. But the thing that Pete said that's interesting is like I look back. You're right. Like I think in everybody's life, like you look in the mirror, you're like, man, I got old, But like those years flew past.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I look back and didn't realize is that, like I was training for this career for a really long time. Like I look back at our Top Rod days, like if you follow Ike Live, dude, we talk so much about those club days, but dude, that was like for me so important to what I do now. Like the federation, fishing through the Bass New Jersey Bass Federation, Top Rod days. Dude, like all like the good and the bad, like we talked about it before, like, but remember we had that Wilson tournament and like I had a short fish or something. You were the tournament director and like got steamed off out of the parking lot, like all pissed. Like I remember all that stuff, but like even the bad things were like, it's like you were training, It was like a training for me.
Wait a minute. You rejected his fish?
I penalized him for it.
What?
I had a short fish, according to Dave. I still think it was 12, but maybe my board was bent.
What did you see, Dave? Was it like
I think it was
11
like
and a half?
I think it was like an 11-inch fish that he brought up there. And then his excuse was, don't I get a courtesy check as he was like trying to put him on the scale. And then he appealed it, and the board, which was like Brian and Bert, ruled in his favor.
What?
Yeah, you guys did.
Wait.
They overturned your
I forget.
elimination?
I forget.
Yeah, he's making stuff up.
I forget.
No, you DQ'd his whole bag because he did a burnout and threw rocks on your Granada.
Oh, my Hyundai.
Your Hyundai.
Yeah.
He lit the Hyundai out with
It did. He scorched up the Hyundai, so he got DQ. Yeah, that's right. That's what it was.
He
They
lost
overturned
the
the
whole
DQ. They
Oh,
overturned
my
the whole
God.
The
DQ.
fish didn't count.
Yeah.
That might be true.
So he quit the club and joined the federation and won
No,
the
I
classic.
didn't.
Yeah.
No, that's not how.
Good job.
If Dave hadn't pushed you away,
That's right.
you may not be here
That was
now.
the motivation
Everything
you needed,
happens
Mike.
for a
Yeah.
reason.
You might be president of like Barrington Rod and Reel or
Yeah.
something.
All right, well,
I
listen,
had no idea.
I want to dive right into this
You do
because
okay.
we've got some really fun guests tonight.
Okay.
We're going to bring two guys on.
Two guys.
One has known you for forever, and I would
Forever.
say is friend. The other has known you for also a very long time, but I think probably started as foe, a competitor. So maybe he can tell us
The
Okay.
some
foe.
stories
Okay.
of early on. We've got Denny Brauer and Dave Manson.
Oh, yes. What's up, guys? Hi, Dave. Hi, Denny.
How you doing?
Whoa,
We say they're Hall of Famer.
man. Well, this is, let me tell you, I am honored to have both you guys on tonight. Dave, you're okay because you're just an old ex-cop from New Jersey. But to have Denny on tonight at this moment, thank you for coming on. Such an honor. It's amazing.
Very welcome. Happy to be here.
You said Becky Denny was a foe. Did Mike spin out and throw rocks on your Hyundai, Denny?
I don't
Believe,
think I did.
that was so spot on. Well, you could always tell whether you had a bad day by how many rocks were flying.
Not much has changed.
That's amazing. Well, here's the thing that I especially now having Denny on. It's amazing how much influence someone can have when you're young, And I can tell you, Denny, I know I've told you this before, but I want to say again, as an aspiring young angler, like you look at people and you try to emulate things that they do. And, like I'm so old now, but I can remember being, 15 years old watching you and saying, I want to fish like this guy and I want to emulate his style. But then I remember seeing you at boat shows You know, like I was that stalker fan, like in the back row, like, you know, watching how you interact with people. And they're all things that I try to do now in my career. So the thing that I learned is it's amazing how much influence you can have and you don't know. Right. So,
Yeah.
you know, Denny, you got a cocky young kid from New Jersey to turn fishing into a career. And you did that from afar. So thank you very much for doing that.
Well, I words, Mike, but that's just something we all have to be aware of. There's always people watching. They're going to, emulate what we do, and we do the positive thing. Maybe they'll pass that on.
Yeah, it's been incredible.
You know, Danny, Mike, when we set up we used to have like our shooting range for jigs at our meetings. That was based on Denny using the coffee cups, because we read an article where he said he practiced in coffee cups, and we set them all up throughout the club. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's amazing.
I still get Danny. We still I just stayed with Ish this week or last week at Watts Bar, and every time we talk about somebody, the flipping comes up. I mean, your influence is on everybody, and everybody still is heavily influenced by it. And I think you might be pleased to know, like, some of these kids that are crushing it at the opens right now, that they're using forward facing sonar. Everybody might just think that they're finesse fishing, but they're doing it with a jig. Wow. They're crushing it with a jig.
Wow.
Cool.
Yep.
It's a weird combination, forward-facing sonar and a jig.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's like Josh Jones.
It's very strange.
The big fish out there.
It's very strange.
No.
Dave Mansu, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Mike. I'm doing good.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see Pete's alive. I've tried to contact him. I don't know how many times. Just blows me off. So it's good to see you, Pete.
It's good to see you too, Dave.
Hey, Mike, you said something earlier about Denny influencing people. Some point in your life, you're going to realize how many people you've influenced as well. There's so many young kids today that got into the sport because of you and because of the way you entered it and how you influenced it. And that's something that I think you in the long run, you're going to feel extremely proud about, because the youth fishing today is just blown out. It's blown out the doors now. And a lot of it has to do with many of the things that you did during your career. So you should be very proud of that.
I appreciate that. I'm definitely proud of that. And, it's keeping people fishing is an important thing. And if I was a part of that, I'm super proud of that. It's important.
Absolutely.
I feel obligated to tell this story. I know I've told it before, but I don't think I've ever told it on Ike Live. But having Denny on right now, I feel obligated to tell the story. So a big part of my career, in that learning for me, was taking a little stair step, joining a club. We had freaking John boats, and then fishing as a co-angler. And, I did it for 2 full years at the national level. And back then, you guys remember, they were the Bassmaster Top 100s back then, they were called. And in 1993, I got picked for one. And I was so excited because I had never fished in a big tournament before, ever.
Or a big boat.
Not even in a big boat. Literally, the biggest boat I was in was a 16-footer with a 20 on the back, like tiller. So I get picked for this tournament. It's on Lake Norman in North Carolina. And I'm so excited. And back then, you were guaranteed 4 days, with pros. And I know every guy, right? And I'm so excited. And I get my draw. And back then, Denny, you remember, they would meet. And at the meeting is when you would find out who your draw was, So it was literally, I think it was Ray Scott. And he was calling the names, and he would say, this guy and this guy. He would call the state, the pro's name, the state, the amateur's name. And they would go meet. And my first day, I got drawn with Tommy Biffle. And I was so excited because Tommy Biffle was another guy that I watched, and he was so good. And I was like, this is an amazing opportunity. And so I got in his boat, and I was blown away by the speed of these boats. And I'm holding on for dear life, and my hat's blowing off. And I've never even been in a boat before. And I'm so excited about what I'm about to see and watch these guys and watch what they do. And the night before, or at the meeting, he said, we're going to fish a topwater a little bit, and then I'm going to fish a jig around docks. And I'm like, great. And we probably didn't go that far, but we were going to start on a riprap causeway, just where the bridge crossed. And he went to go to this point, and as he turns the bend, there's another competitor there, and I can kind of see he's mad, like he's mad, but he's like and he goes to the opposite end of the riprap, which is probably it's a quarter mile down at the end of the riprap. And he's going to go there and start there and work the other way. Well, when he sets down, drops the trolling motor, I grab a rod, and no sooner do I look, and the guy that's at the point comes on pad racing toward us. And remember, this is the first boat tournament I ever fished in my life.
First stop you ever made.
First stop I ever made. I've only looked at this in the magazine and on TNN on the show. This is all real. And off pad, like literally off pad, like with the weight coming down, is Denny. Denny, you were so mad. You were so mad at Tommy for coming in to fish that riprap. And it was great because
I imagine
it was this first experience where I got to see the reality of competition, right? And, when it's competition, man, it's like any other sport when the game is on. And then when the game is off, it's not competition, So that was my introduction to fishing. And I'll never forget that. It was amazing.
Denny, can we hear what's your side of the story? What went down?
You give out a little too much information.
Come on, Denny, tell us the truth. All right. Tommy was going to cut you. You were going to rip his shorts off, something.
I think those shorts have been cut off already.
Is that how he got to wear them that way?
Mike, I actually remember that day, believe it or not.
Yeah,
I could take you right to that riprap bank. There were some good fish at one time there. Tommy flipped them all. But...
No, but it was a great moment because, I look back on that and how like everything happens and you take from it, you learn a little bit, but it was a piece that I learned that, there is that factor where you're fishing the same water, and there's an intimidation factor that you can use, right? It's like other sports. And so it was good that I saw that early in my career, like literally I had my son out Vegas and we fished a Thursday nighter and, he had a boat, like cut him off. Like two grown men.
The Cowan brothers
cut Vegas off. And I'm like, it's good that he's seeing this, right? Because it's competition, it's fierce. And, everything that happened in my career, that moment and all these thousands of moments that happened since then are all important.
But even more important, to paint that picture even better for younger people watching, there was only maybe a dozen guys that when they wrote an article, it mattered.
Yeah.
And two of them were the guys we just mentioned.
Right there.
And, like for that to happen at that time in history when, like, I don't know, that is pretty neat, dude.
Yeah. It was.
What you got to keep in mind is Tommy and I have been good friends for years and have similar fishing styles, so to speak. So we'd end up on a lot of the same water. So we'd have a lot of friendly discussions over time.
That's a good way of putting it.
I've had my fair share of those moments in my career, so I understand now. But you got to remember, at the time, I was so green that it was all new.
Yeah,
Oh, my
and
gosh,
you took
yeah.
those things you learned and you brought them back to us and did that shit to
Well,
us in the club.
I mean, I took it all back, but like the styles, that one tournament, so it was amazing because I drew Tommy Biffle, Gary Klein, Cliff Kraft, and David Fritz were my 4 guys.
Jeez, only you.
Can you imagine that? You know, being in your early 20s, 23, 24 years old, and drawing those kind of names. And I had a terrible tournament, but watching what went down and watching the little stuff, time management, and
so let's fast forward 1 year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I meet you for the first time at the meeting. Two guys from New Jersey, just
same place.
Basic, hello, how are you? Yeah, Norman.
Same place.
And we talked a little bit. Really didn't know each other. Just both two dudes from New Jersey, both in all, seeing guys like Denny at the meeting.
Yeah.
Klon, Roland was there. I mean, it was like you said. You're reading the magazines and watching TNN all the time.
Yeah.
Here they are. I mean, in flesh and blood, they're right in front of you. You're just in awe. I mean, I don't feel that way about Denny anymore because I've fished with him many times.
That's very true.
But for the first time in my life, and I'm so glad that this is happening to you, because I don't feel as though I have to explain it anymore. You are now accepted. You are now recognized for everything you brought to the sport, for everything you do for kids, for everything you do in your life that benefits other people. But for the first time, it was the last night of the tournament, and you drew Chet Dawson, and he was staying next to me. And he comes up to me and goes, "Hey, you know anything about this guy?" And I'm like, he's from Jersey. He's a really good fisherman, nice guy. He goes, "I've heard some things about this kid. He's real aggressive. I'm telling you right now, if he throws over me, his ass is out in 60 feet of water. I don't think he's doing anything or not." Right? So you owe me on that one.
Oh, yeah.
I told him you were a good dude and that you weren't going to get in his way and you were just going to fish hard,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He came back that day and told me what a great guy you were and what a great day you had had with him.
Quit lying, Dave.
And how happy he was for you. So
yeah, no, we did have a good day, and he actually had a talk with me that morning too. So Chet, like Denny, Chet's a pretty intimidating dude too.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
a big guy. I'm a little guy, so you're intimidated by that. So I made sure to keep my distance, but I do have a Chet story real quick for you. So later on, after I qualified, I think it was maybe I was a sophomore, we had a Lake Wheeler tournament, and Chet was fishing at the time, and now I'm a pro, and we had a little run-in on the Decatur Flats at Lake Wheeler, and Chet felt like I did something, and I pushing the boundaries.
You most certainly did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, those things, like Denny, like you remember that moment. That was so many, that's so it's just this little speck, right? But you remember it. And so years later, I'm on Lake Okeechobee and I'm fishing reeds, and I have this like magic stretch of reeds, and I'm fishing, and all of a sudden this guide shiner boat pulls right up in front of me and starts fishing shiners. And who is it?
Chet
for revenge. Like 15 years later. And I had to sit there and endure watching his clients rip their
Jack
asses
6-pounders
when I kick.
Oh my God.
So it all comes back full circle. So
Karma, huh?
Karma. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you, Chet. Appreciate it.
That's a great story.
So Denny, give us your perspective on Mike's career and how it started out and how,
or what you really thought at the beginning.
Being a southern sport, how us guys from the north came in and
damn Yankees.
How they changed
made it gross.
Changed the complexion a little bit.
Well, I think it's obvious to everybody his success on the tournament side. I mean, those records will never ever go away, and those accomplishments alone, as I think Pete alluded earlier, are very deserving of being Hall of Fame. But what has really impressed me about Mike over the years is how he kind of turned a career of being a very competitive, at times over competitive fisherman into a career of absolutely helping the sport itself out. All these different ventures that he's participated in, the stuff that him and Becky do together. That stuff just goes a long, long way and carries on for years. I've always said that these trophies really won't mean anything 20 years from now, but the knowledge you pass on and the people you get involved in the sport, that carries on forever. So I think that's his biggest attribute that he's given to the sport, but just all around, he's very deserving of being in the Hall of Fame.
I appreciate that. Thank you,
Well
Danny.
said. Well said.
Appreciate that. And I think you're right. Like even now, I think that other stuff means a lot. It means a lot. The stuff we do with the Ike Foundation means a whole lot. And when you feel like you've impacted someone, and you can hear a story or see it happening, it's all worth it because of those moments. So very true.
Well. Yeah. It's very, very deserving, and that's a great compliment and great observation, Denny. And you kind of alluded to this, Dave, but I want when he first came out on tour, Denny, I know like Dalfit was worried about you, and you had a bad reputation. What were your thoughts about this young brash kid? Or were you, where was your head at when this guy crashed on tour?
Well, I wanted to kill him a few tournaments. Competitive, which I'd rather have somebody over competitive. You got to be competitive in order to be successful. If you're not competitive, you're just donating your money. So I didn't really fault him on that. I just felt that he thought he owned a lot of my water there a couple of times. And then I was told that I really didn't own that water by the tournament director. So it is what it is. But no, I got to see Mike's career progress over the years. And I think when we're young, we all probably do some things we wish we hadn't done. Don't handle the negatives quite as well as we should have. But as time goes on, I got to work seminars together with Mike and saw how professional he can be, how he handled the crowd and everything, especially how he dealt with kids. So no, I got nothing but positives to say now. Probably there were some times I'd really like to grab him by the neck.
Yeah.
Did that actually happen? Did you guys actually get face to face on the water ever?
I don't remember any.
No.
He went any up close and personal ones, but
no, you just run through my stuff and keep going.
I have mellowed out a little as my career went on, but
you actually go around people now.
I was very. No,
what I'm saying, do you now go around people?
I mean,
or do you save the extra half a second and cut right through their water?
Bunny hop.
It's hard to change. Dude. Yeah. It's hard to change. But you hit it on the head, Denny. I think you look back at your career, and you do. You can look at highlights, right? That's the easy one. All these things you've done right. But I've done a lot of things wrong, But the interesting thing is, I don't think I would go back and change them. It's like you learn from them. But I'm glad those mistakes happened, right? I'm glad I made some of those failures because I think it molded who I am today, who I am now, and I think it's molded the direction my career went in. So I think the failure is okay. And the other thing is, I think it's good that you stick to who you are, and I look back at those moments where or early on, trying to fit in, I think was a bad thing for me. And then when I eventually just said, screw it, this is who I am, I'm going to stick to it. And I'm still that person. So I think being true to yourself is very important. I think successful anglers like Denny, he's the same dude that he always was. He's, and I think you have to be like that. And I think people can see that genuineness in you, right? Like that's real. And when people see that, they respect it, whether they like you or not, right? Denny, you have people that love you. You have people that have hated you in your career as well. But whether they loved you or hated you, they had to respect you because you are who you are. You've been the same Denny from day one. And that's good to be the same.
He actually still looks like the same Denny.
Yeah, you've aged very well. Dave, not so much, but Denny, you've aged really
It's like he's drinking baby rabbit blood or something. I don't even know what he's doing, dude, but he looks amazing.
You got to see him up close. He don't look all that good.
Yeah. I'll compliment you, Dave, so you don't have to throw shade on Denny.
Thanks.
You're looking rather
Dave.
muscular, Dave. How's that?
I
think the odd thing is this, Mike, wherever you've been misconstrued or, people took exception to what you were doing. And the same with Denny, those people that took exception to some of the things that he did, what you were doing was all because of your passion for the sport. Yeah. It's the passion that carried you to those moments. It's the passion that carried you to that success, and it's the passion that's carried you to what you do, what you've done outside of fishing for the industry, for the sport, for all of us who followed you, so it's hard to fault somebody for being passionate. And that's what I've always tried to explain to people who've come up to me and go, hey, you know this guy? Yeah, I know him. I know him really well. He's a good friend of mine. Okay. Whatever you're saying about him, it's because of his passion for the sport that he does these things. Okay. And if you look into it, you'll understand that's what drives him, is the passion for the sport. So, that's something that you're both to be commended on.
That was really nice, Dave. Thanks for coming on and making his head bigger. But let's be honest, you have known him for years. We have lived. Actually, he lived. I mean, I think you had to take him as a dependent for at least 1 year a few years ago.
He's on my tax reform.
Let's hear a real story. Come on.
Well, the toughest day I've ever had with Mike was the day he broke the rod at the Texas.
Oh,
remember?
Oh,
who could forget?
That was the fish off.
Yeah,
that was
fish.
Oh, yeah.
That was when the PAA had the worst tiebreaker rules in the history of bass fishing, and made me go back out and fish against Keith on his home lake for an hour.
Well, they were what they were, and we were all played by them. But the reality of it is, I learned a valuable lesson there. Okay, and I think I still have Drew and Riley's phone number in my phone just in case I ever run into that situation again. Because
that was not pretty.
No,
I thought it was awesome, actually.
Well, what happened? Like I saw the aftermath of the other fish getting caught, right?
Yeah.
You got the news, and then you went ballistic on your rod.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about, Dave? What went down?
No, I mean, I was just.
Becky bailed and said, "Dave, you get him on stage." If
I was upset. Yeah, I mean,
understandably, Mike was extremely upset. Okay, he had lost the tournament. All right, it was a fish off. You know what I mean? The first guy to catch one, and he actually caught several along the dam there. They just didn't measure; they were just short. So.
How about the poor bastard that was his marshal that took the call and had to tell him? No one talks about that guy. No one ever talks about that guy.
I feel for him, but I'm the guy who had to get him back to the venue, not only to get on stage, but to take a polygraph test.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was not going to do it.
Lost the polygraph.
They gave you a polygraph?
Why did they? Here's your L and a polygraph.
I mean, at the moment, and everybody, if you're a competitor, you can relate to this. The moment when you've lost or you've come in second, or I've gotten better with it, but at that point, it was hard for me to swallow for the first 24 or 48 hours.
Wait, it was just TTBC. It's like win or go.
I mean,
yourself,
well, no,
right?
there was a prize.
He got 35
Yeah,
grand.
polygraph.
Yeah, but they get the polygraph. That's like losing your prized hunting dog in a divorce to a wife that hated the dog anyway.
I know. Well,
there was the one time in my fishing career I wished I had my handcuffs with me because I was going to cuff him, put him in the car, and get him back to the venue because he was not getting in that car. I finally got him to sit in the car, and then I believe it was Becky. Correct me if I'm wrong. She got Drew on the phone, and the light, the switch went right off. He calmed right down. Everything was fine. We went through all the steps, and I'm like, man, I just learned a valuable lesson here. Okay? This is the deal here. Don't give me those numbers. I'm going to keep these forever.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting what becomes the most viewed, of your moments in your career, and that is one of them. It's like
when you tomahawk the steez.
Yeah, I got all these amazing moments that have happened on camera, and the one that gets the billion views is me breaking a rod over the gunnel of the boat. So, but
correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. Didn't you sign that broken rod for a kid?
So of course, and how so the media and the media is interesting how they portray stuff. But so after I did that, so one of the things that I've done wrong or right is I try to get rid of that frustration quick, and then I can move on. So I kind of broke the rod. I threw it up on the bank, and then I just kind of took a deep breath, and I'm like, all right. And I went back up there and got it. I actually trolled up there.
Cameras didn't show that.
They didn't show that. I trolled up there and got the rod, and I put it back in the boat, and then I got back to weighing, and there was a kid there. And I signed the rod and gave it to that kid. The rod and the reel together, gave it to the kid. So, of course, none of that was shown. But
So at what point, air quotes, did your friend Dave read you your rights and take you to your polygraph test?
I don't remember exactly. But,
come on, Dave, you're not supposed to give it all up here.
Yeah. Again, you got to look. It's hard. When something's happening at the time, it's hard to swallow, right? But I look back on that, and I didn't need to win that tournament. Keith probably needed to win that tournament at that part of his career, and that's how life is. You look back on moments like that and you wonder, why did that happen? Why did I've lost tournaments by 3 ounces. Why did that happen? I've won them by 1 ounce. Denny, you know this feeling. Dave, you've won them. And it's like things happen when they're supposed to happen. And, you have to accept that, and I look back at that. I didn't need to win that tournament.
Danny, do you feel that way about Ish?
What's that?
I always look at a tournament this way, Mike. If you do bad, it's history. If you do good, it's history. You're only as good as your next event. So you can't dwell on it too much. And I think if you look at fishing as a business and you always are looking forward to the next event, you're never going to get too caught up in how bad you are or how good you are. You're just going to develop the right work ethic. And one thing that really impressed me about you is we had a tournament on Lake Champlain, and we were staying in cabins right there on the lakeside. And I always prided myself in being the first one out in the morning on a practice day and the last one in on the evening. I figured I probably wasn't as smart as some of the guys, but I was going to outwork them. And man, I'd have to turn around and go find another place to fish because you're training. So that told me a little bit about your work ethic right there. And I knew how successful you were going to be because of what effort you were putting into the sport.
I appreciate that. It's definitely, that's been a help for me in my career. But I want to ask both you guys a question. I want to turn the tides here. And it's a great question for Dave and Denny is when do you know it's the right time to retire and call it quits? That's a big question I want to know because I don't feel like I'm ready yet, but I feel like that moment is on the horizon at some point for me. So Denny and Dave, how do you know when you're ready to step away from something you've done your whole life? You're your career you've done your whole life? How do you know when you're ready?
Well, it was easy for me. I went broke.
That's a good reason.
Well, time to pack it in.
Time to pack it in.
Out of money. Let's go.
All right.
This profound setup.
That's a great reason. Okay, how are we doing financially? We're still okay. All right.
Go ahead, Denny. I mean, it was easy for me because, I just, I wanted to do other things.
Yeah.
I got to a point in my life where I wanted to do other things. I was spending, all the money that I would win plus some of my own. I've never been a good marketer, so to speak, for whatever reason. So it got to a point where, hey, Denny and I now go elk hunting together. I'll spend my money on those types of things. And I retired. I wasn't making as much money as I was when I was working.
Right.
But it just, I just kind of, after a while, I've always admired guys like Denny and Harold Allen and Tommy Martin, still one of them, Nixon, all those years with that time behind the windshield, man, that gets old after a while.
Yeah.
All those hours of driving from one place to another, So I just wanted to stay closer to home and not worry about the national thing. I'm fortunate. I'm blessed when I look at that trophy every day and think, I was lucky enough to win one of those events. Not everybody's been able to do that. You think of the tens of thousands of guys who have fished those tournaments and not won one. And yet I'm blessed to have one in my house, So I've kind of turned my focus to, the local stuff, but I do a lot of instructional stuff now. I work with Denny at Kurt Dove's Pro Bass Camp, and Brian Snowden and Chad Morgan-Taylor and I have started Future Cast Academy, where we do a lot of instructional stuff. So in many ways, I'm trying to pass the sport along just as you are now at this point in my career. So that's what's important to me.
There, Dave?
Yeah.
What's
Denny,
that, Brian?
Is it Bass University knockoff? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I used to fill in at Bass University, but they don't call me anymore. So I had to start my own gig.
Peter? It's the Bass U Summer School. That's all right, dude. What do you
Peter?
But Denny, tell us what caused you to what signs showed up in your life where it was time to retire.
Yeah, everybody's situation's a little bit different, I think, Dave. I think there's a lot of guys that would like to retire, but because our sport doesn't make everybody, wealthy enough to retire, I think some of them are either forced to continue on, grabbing whatever they can, or get out. I was one of the lucky ones that had a great sponsor base and was able to do 10 years of ESPN TV and, had some success on the tournament side of things to where financially I was able to retire, probably back when I was 50 years old. But I enjoyed the sport and I really wanted to do it as long as I could because of the camaraderie and being out there. I love the competition. But I kind of reached a point physically where I didn't feel like I could give it 100% day in and day out. I was going to have tournaments now and then where the stars would line up where I could win, but I couldn't put in them long practice days and, just had a lot of physical issues to deal with. So I decided it was time to kind of back away from the tournament scene, still work with the sponsors and still work with the industry, but really concentrate on fishing where I wanted to fish rather than being told where to fish, because some of the venues we'd go to on a tournament trail were places I'd never go to on vacation. I can tell you that. And I'm head from an awful good Lake of the Ozarks, to be in a spot where I had an opportunity to catch double-digit fish and also be in the middle of some of the best hunting in the world. So, I had just other things I wanted to do with my life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a hard decision, right? It's got to be right for you, I guess, right? Everybody's different, so it's got to feel right.
I think you just have to have a mission afterward.
Right.
Because if you stop working, you start dying. You know. And
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You got to have
Yeah,
something. to do
exactly,
after.
Dave. You got to have a plan afterwards, you know, and whether it's going to be, Mike, you want to spend more time with Vegas and Stelly, or, you know, you want to focus more on the Ike Foundation and other things that you're doing, you'll know when it's going to be. But right now, man, I know your passion is to get back to the Classic and hopefully win another one, you know, and I'm a believer, dude. I think you can do it. I think you'll do it before you retire again. So, you know, you'll do it again before you retire. So, but you'll know.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Denny, what can I expect at the Hall of Fame induction? People going to throw popcorn at me or rotten fruits and vegetables? What's going to happen?
I've heard a lot of rumors, so many that I've come up with an excuse to not go. I'm afraid it's going to be TV, but now
Say their name, Denny.
I think
Names.
a very rewarding night for you. It's very professional. It's a very well done event. You will be very, very glad that you're being inducted, and it'll be a very proud moment for you and your family.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I can't wait. We're a few days away. It doesn't feel real. Like just now, this moment, talking about it and having these guys on, it's pretty special. So very excited. Can't wait.
You'll love it. Like you'll be taken back by everything that goes on there. You know, I was fortunate enough years ago. I was able to introduce Harold Allen when he was inducted. You know, gave a little introduction speech for Harold, and then you know, witnessed his induction. You know, obviously, really good friends with Denny. You know. I bust his chops all the time when we're fishing and we're not catching anything. Hey, could you do some of that Hall of Fame shit so we can catch something? but you know, I've been blessed, you know, to know you guys and fish with you guys, and it's really done extremely well. You're going to be really, really happy when it's over. You're going to be taken back by how you're treated there and the whole ceremonial part of it. So it's really nice and well deserved, my friend. Well deserved. Who knew back in '94 this was going to happen?
It's crazy.
You know? Yep.
Crazy.
All those nights we all slept together in those little cabins.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
The frat house.
It's been a wild ride.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
You're gonna have half of New Jersey there with you, I think.
A lot
anyway.
of New Jersey will be there. Yeah, a lot of the old club guys will be there. It's gonna make it really, really special to have a lot of those guys there. So it's gonna be great.
Is it a big auditorium or is it how many people will be there, Dave? Do
It's
you know?
a circular room, and
It's
everybody
like
on the balcony looking down.
Well, I'm just curious. Is it
There'll be a couple hundred people there. No, it's a gigantic room.
Okay.
You know, there'll be probably between 200 and 300 people there.
I was on the podcast and I started mentioning it, and I'm like, "Come on out and join us at the Hall of Fame, you know, induction for Mike." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, this isn't open to the public."
We're gonna have just come out and crash it.
Well, they could buy a ticket.
They could buy a ticket.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But
Yeah, it's really really top shelf.
Yeah, they also have an auction, so you can support the Hall of Fame through their auction,
right,
from their website,
right,
which they support different scholarships and
is it streamed at all? Is it streamed on like YouTube or Facebook or anything?
That's a good question. That I don't know, but just pray they don't let Kevin Van Dam do the auction part again.
He
right?
probably does.
Oh, it's terrible last year. he's not an auctioneer, trust me.
So here's a better idea. Let's have a wrestling match live between Boyd Duckett and Chase Anderson. Wrestling together. That's a good idea.
That would generate some money. That
will generate money through that.
Yeah, that would be big.
I like that idea.
I could see the both of them just threatening to sue each other.
Yeah, their lawyers are in front of them.
No one ever. There's no actual physical content.
You think the lawyers are like their coaches, so like they start arguing with each other.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Beck, questions?
I have one question. I have one more. Denny, I feel bad because I'm asking you more questions than anything. But let me just put this bluntly. Today, I was actually supposed to fish today. I had made the final day at the Toyota Series on the Potomac, and they canceled today because of high winds. I want to ask you, because you've been doing it. You've done it a long time, longer than me, and I've done it a long time. Has this sport become a bunch of pussies?
Denny, when did people become endangered species?
That was the Jersey way of saying, hey.
I mean, Denny, honestly, do you remember the days, dude? They would, Trip
10-foot waves.
Trip would
We're
let
running
us
out
out
of people,
on
Mike.
anything.
We're running out of people.
Before Trip, Dewey would let us. They'd let you guys out.
If
anything.
it saves one life,
It didn't matter. And now the wind blows, the rain. It's raining too hard. We can't launch you. What?
It's part of our Sue Happy society nowadays that, they're scared of any little thing that's going to happen. And I understand safety and, trying to take care of the anglers, but I always look forward to the bad conditions because that just, kind of opened up some areas where people were not going to go to because, as you say, they were pussies and they were going to stay in. If you wanted to run them big waves, go for it.
Yeah.
I think it took the advantage away too. Like the guys that were, like you said, not scared to go. It takes that advantage away. The guys that are good at running rough water, they lose that advantage.
Right.
The guys that are capable of catching fish in 6-foot seas,
right?
Which is a skill that few possess. And it takes that right out of the equation.
Yeah. See, now
it's all live scopers.
I see it differently. I can remember the couple of times I fished Erie on day 2 being in like 170th place, like praying they would just call the day. Like, you sure, guys? They're 3-footers, man. They are deadly as shit.
They're 2.5 footers. We're all gonna die.
I can remember a day on Champlain in an FLW event where you're in that little area there with all the sailboats and everything waiting to take off. And I handed my keys to my co-angler because I'm taking waves over the bow, just sitting there thinking, look, they're going to call this any second. Here's my keys. You can run and get the truck as soon as I get to the dock.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, boat number 1.
I always love that part of the sport where, it was a little bit of that, you have to work through danger, right? You have to work through Mother Nature. You have to endure those elements. I always love that part of the sport. And I feel like that's been taken away. I honestly can tell you that, in my opinion, the heyday of bass fishing was, I would call it the mid-early 80s to about the mid to early mid 2000s. That was the heyday. Yeah. But especially, Denny, that 80 to 90 period was, in my opinion, would never be touched ever again in the sport.
Mike,
it was so special,
just for conversational purposes, let me play devil's advocate. Yeah. These tournament directors all talk to each other. We've had guys die.
We have. There's been
now, when you're that tournament director and you've had a guy die, you realize honestly how meaningless it all was. When you maybe in the back of your mind, you're like, I should call today, but you have all these anglers looking at you like you're a wuss if you don't. You send guys out, and a couple don't come back.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm just saying,
it's hard to answer that because I don't, because
we're still alive.
I know, when somebody dies, I know that's a monumental.
But this is on their mind,
But
hey Dave, as I had to make those decisions as PAA president several times.
Yeah,
and that's one thing that you think about.
Thank you.
Is a life worth this?
Yeah.
And my opinion was I was always going to err on the side of caution.
Yeah,
I know I was going to take some heat for it because there's always those guys that wanted to go no matter what, but I was not going to be responsible for somebody dying that day. So
you're not responsible.
Yeah, I mean, if
you're not, you're just not.
You're going to feel that way though. If somebody does, you're going to feel that way.
Nah, he's a police chief, dude. That's exactly how they think. Yeah, I'm not ripping on you for that, Dave. I'm just saying that there's a different mindset in
you don't lose anybody.
guys you're putting out there,
Yeah, but how many guys passed away on an elite level tour? Because I feel like there is a difference with elite level anglers knowing how to navigate waters versus.
I don't think any.
Maybe like
I would say zero.
I can't recall of
where
any.
you've got guys on the water that maybe don't have as much experience.
Yeah.
And maybe don't know how to navigate.
And the other part of it is, listen, if you're a professional and you're engaging in that your craft or your sport, you're taking that risk, right? Athletes do it in other sports, football, NASCAR, whatever the sport is. You're engaging in that as a professional in that sport, right?
They have referees in those sports that will stop the fight or stop the competition or blow a whistle on the play.
Yeah, but football games in the snow are friggin' a blast. Are they
It's
not?
the safest time to play football in the snow. Nobody runs fast.
Whatever. I'm just
You
saying.
don't get
But I
blasted.
do remember tournaments.
Wrap everybody in
delayed,
Nerf. Everybody
like-
stay home and do it imaginary in your head.
But I remember
Whatever.
years, sitting there sometimes at the ramp because there's a fog delay or there's some sort of delay. And then
Yeah.
once they deem it safe, they send you. And then it's on you to figure out if you need
It's
to
on
take
you.
cover or
It's
be
on you.
safe.
Right.
My point is, I don't know if I've ever heard of someone on an elite level actually
Yeah.
dying. I think you err on a more cautious side, maybe on a.
It's
on a
social
lesser
media
level
because
to-
everybody wants to get on there and just,
Well, the biggest
so
problem
annoying.
that I've seen in recent years is canceling on a forecast, and that makes me nuts. I remember, Danny, you were probably in this tournament out at Lake Mead, the top 100 out there, and we had forecasted winds of giant winds. They canceled a day.
1 million miles an hour.
It was slick as glass on the cancellation day.
Yeah.
And the next day it blew, and I was running a long way on Lake Mead, and I remember I got pounded, and I'm like, yesterday when they canceled, it was slick, but I see that over and over again, like where, they get the forecast the night before, and then it's not that bad,
Yeah.
and the forecasts are terrible. They're always inflammatory. It's like the weather stations are all trying to sell advertising, and they're blowing the wind out of proportion. They're blowing the conditions out of proportion.
They're canceling school now on forecasts.
I'd like to see them wait until Derby Day. Let's get up. Let's see what the actual conditions turn out to be.
Pete, I have an opinion on that. I feel there are so many anglers out there now. You'll see them. They start petitioning.
They do. They start
petitioning.
lobbying the tournament
Yes.
directors.
Yep.
Really?
It's canceled.
Yeah.
It's going to be bad.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, and here's the interesting thing is you would think they'd be all the older guys, right?
No,
because they don't want to. Dude, it's
not.
young guys, it's
Yeah.
middle-aged guys,
Yep.
just
Yeah.
anyone that doesn't want to fish.
Yeah.
Yep.
They lobby.
They do.
Yeah.
Well, that's another form of competition, I guess.
I guess so.
Try to
Whining is
sway
a
the
form of
tournament
competition.
I
director.
guess so. I don't know. I don't like it.
We digress.
Sorry.
Denny, any tips? I've always wanted to know this. How are you so good at intimidation?
Being
I
6'4", I'm sure doesn't
tell you
help.
what, I really hated that you asked me that question.
There's a form of intimidation.
There it is, right there.
Okay. It's working. It's working.
I know we fished together. I probably fished out there with you for 7 or 8 years, and I never ran into you on the water because I was scared to death. If I knew Denny was fishing in the top half of the reservoir, I was going to pattern the lower half just to be sure. Yeah.
There you have it, Mike. Just answered your own question.
Hey, Pete, I got to be honest with you. He can be that way when you're fishing with him, actually. I got a quick little story for you. We were in a tournament together on Lake Ray Roberts. And, he hooked an absolute giant. I mean, just a giant. It was at least 12. And he fought it and fought it and fought it, got it out over open water, and I'm sitting there with the net, and he's, it's just straight underneath the boat. He's bringing it up. I mean, we got this thing, man. This is going to definitely be the largest fish in the tournament and really do wonders for us for the day, right? And he's bringing it up, and I'm there with the net just waiting to see this thing come up because we had seen it jump. It was gigantic, right? And all of a sudden, here comes the jig flying up out of the water, right? And I'm like, what the, and he just spun around on that seat, sits up there on that pedestal seat, looked at it, made another cast, never said a word. I'm looking at him,
Wow.
Only about a half an hour later, I looked up there and I went, so what do you think happened? He just kind of eased around that seat, looked at me and said, how the do I know? And then turned right around. I went, okay.
I thought he was going to say you were a little slow on the net boy.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks
He
for your
was not a
alligator
happy
arm.
camper, man. I was afraid to talk to him for the rest of the day. And I'm in the boat with him.
Oh man.
You get a Dave.
12 pounds is a big one.
That,
Oh, that hurts.
that does
It
hurt.
hurts when I lose a 3-pounder. Oh my God.
My goodness.
Crazy. Crazy.
So did you get your question answered there, Pete?
He just intimidated me out of getting an answer. So I'm too intimidated to ask a follow-up question. I think I'm just going to sit here and be satisfied.
All right, should we check? Let's check the Ike Live social feeds real quick
Yes.
before we move on.
Mike, is this sinking in at all?
No, none of this. You talking about the Hall of Fame thing? None of it feels real.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I don't think it's going to hit me probably until after it's over.
Right.
Becky's been bugging me for a couple months now since they announced it about preparing for the night, and I haven't done anything. I haven't thought about it. Every time I think about it, I don't think it's real. It's like kind of freaking me out a little bit. So it hasn't even set in. I don't think it's going to set in until it actually happens. So it's amazing. It's just amazing. I don't know. I can't think if I think of the accolades in my career, I think it's right there at the top, for me. It's very important,
Yeah.
Right
Have
there.
you ever been to the Hall of Fame?
I've never been to one. I'm very, very excited to go. I've never been to one.
It's really impressive. The actual Hall of Fame itself is very impressive. And it's amazing to me to think that, back in the early 90s, meeting you and Pete and Soley Brothers and Schaefer, all these guys we all stayed with, that, we had the success that we had. And now here you are, you've reached the pinnacle, dude. So proud of you. So happy for you.
Thank you.
I just can't wait for this night to happen. I want to see, you're going to shed some, I know you're Italian. You're going to shed some tears that night.
I probably will. Will. And I'll tell you this, I'm super proud and I'll throw it back at Denny on this one too, because I know Pete and Dave and this Dave here. I'm very, very proud of my roots at the club level and the federation level. And Denny, I know you came through that route as well. And that's important. Like I'm going to talk about that for sure at some point, but I'm so proud that I came from that route and not another place.
Mm-hmm.
Are you the first Northern Italian they've let into the Hall of Fame?
It could be.
Damn Yankee.
How about that?
Yeah.
Probably.
Never thought of
It's
that.
going to be in a special section, Brian.
All right, we got a question here coming in. This one is from Steve Pellegrinis. And Steve's question,
Steve with the fire question.
Steve, this one's for Denny. This one's for you. Steve says, Mike, congrats on the Hall of Fame induction. And quick question for Denny Brauer. Denny, is it true that forward-facing sonar has made average fishermen good since 2017?
Oh, snap.
Oh boy.
Denny?
I guess I don't know the answer to that, but I'm sure there's some guys that's their strength. That's what they do best, and they're going to be successful when it's right for using forward-facing sonar. But when it's not right, they're going to really struggle. They're not going to be a complete fisherman. So I'm sure in some cases that's very, very true, that it's made some guys heroes. But I think in the long run, if you're going to be successful over time, you really got to be a complete fisherman, and just look at forward-facing sonar as another tool. I think you need to learn how to use it, be very efficient with it, because you just look at some of these smallmouth tournaments they have. If you weren't doing that, you weren't being, competitive at all. So if you're going to try to win, you got to be very versatile nowadays and learn how to utilize all your tools. And that's just another tool.
Yeah.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah.
And I think it's dynamic and changing too, because I think the fish are getting more educated to forward-facing sonar all the time.
Yeah.
I've heard. What was that, Denny?
That is definitely going to happen. They always adjust, always adapt. We're always going to be one step behind them.
Yeah.
We had Drew Benton on, was talking about he's catching now 5% of the fish that he sees, and that continues to drop.
Wow.
That's gonna continue to plummet. Gets more challenging. New baits, new tactics, strategies.
Yeah.
The fish are getting used to it.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this. I know I mentioned it, but another piece of that, a magical era of bass fishing for me, called like 80s to mid 2000s. Like, I'm so glad that my career, the main part of my career happened then, and not now, because you
don't think when you started, if you hit forward facing at the beginning, you don't think you would have adapted so quick?
I don't know, but there is something that forward face, there's something that it takes away for me for fishing. Like, and I'm not a hater. Like, I accept that it's a technology, but like I love the fact that it was me out there finding the fish with my lure, like finding the fish, like working to find the fish. I love that I was in the sport at that time, not out there just, flashlighting around the whole time.
Right.
But
that's everything now. That's how people are dating.
Yeah.
You used to have to go put work in at the bar to find your love of your life.
Not anymore. No.
Now you just see her on a thing.
Yeah. You're using forward-facing sonar to get laid.
You just bring your Mega Live to the bar?
You just put your best picture on there from 10 years ago and hope for the best.
Yep. Here, look, here's my Peronis. Look at forward-facing. See my Peronis over there?
All right, well, listen.
I got another question related to forward-facing.
Brian has more questions.
Oh, okay.
Oh, more questions. It's like Brian hasn't even spoke yet.
This will be the first one of the night. This will be the first one. Thank you, Rebecca. Cheers to you.
Trying not to
and this one comes from Drunkwood. You all know John King. And this goes to everybody. Mansu, Denny, and Pete, especially you, Pete, because you just had Randy on. Bass you. You think Randy is so anti-technology?
Randy Blockett is who
Randy
we're-
Blockett.
Yeah.
I think he's so anti-technology. He only uses magazines.
That's pretty funny.
I'm not sure I want to touch that.
Peter, it's on you.
We had that debate, right? And I wanted to bring Randy into that debate because he's just such an outspoken against it, and he just really feels like it's taking the magic out of fishing. And that's
fishing and other things.
Well, I don't know where you're going with that, B. But
what do you think?
I don't know. I think he just loves the sport of fishing, and he'd like to see that technology go away. I don't agree with a lot of his arguments. I really don't. I don't agree with him. I think the technology has been amazing. I think it's helped me understand how fish move that I never knew. Like the Lake Champlain Elite Tournament, where we learned that those fish are offshore. They come up off the bottom and chase the bait, and where they chase it. And I want to be able to figure out where they move on the rivers that we fished our whole lives.
So is Randy using sources other than magazines, Peter?
Brian, answer that question.
You know what,
I'm
though?
asking you.
All right, listen, I don't want to get too philosophical, but what if it's our generation recognizing this immediate information and how detrimental it is to people coming up when we see the benefits of having to work for things non-technology related, where people now don't have to. They don't have to work the same.
Well, with respect to this, I think the work is there. You got to learn the technology. Then you got to learn how to use it. You got to learn how to trigger the strikes. It's still fishing.
It is.
I mean, you see them there. It's
Well,
not that
you
easy.
have to learn how to use the technology. The young people don't have to learn. They just
No, they're cyborgs immediately dialed into
They
it.
just grew up
They
with
are.
that technology.
That's true.
See it in Vegas.
But you can see it in kids that got to go fishing with their dads at the age of 4. You know, the same thing. They just Jacob Prosnick or who were some of the other naturals at fishing. They just seem to be gifted at it, and it's probably because they've been doing it since they came out of the womb. You know, they've been out bird hunting and fishing, and the kids today. You know, a lot of kids today they gravitate toward it because maybe it's the video game thing. I don't know. I can tell you, you know, here's. And I think Denny and Dave can both relate to this because this is a story from Watts Bar that I just competed at, and I'm rooming with a couple guys, and they're all talking about the brush piles, right? There's thousands of brush piles on Watts Bar, and you know how they're finding 100 a day, or you know, got all these points, and I'm like so deficient. I'm like, dude, I've been graphing for 2 days. And I have not found a single brush pile. And I've got my side imaging on, and I'm scanning. I see the grass clumps, and I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? And then so I go out the third day. I'm committed. I'm going to find brush piles, and I reached into my shirt, and I'm like, I put on my reading glasses, and then I found 100 brush piles. I couldn't see him. Now I know, the point is, like, the kids standing at that unit, you know, 6 feet away from that unit, the clarity of their vision is just simply advanced. I think they can see things better.
Yeah.
You know, and Trey McKinney did the 18-year-old.
That might be the oldest thing you've ever said. I think they can see things better.
They have better vision. Trey actually uses what is it, rose glasses or a different hue of lens.
Oh my!
To be able to
That's like 70s mafia. Remember when they would wear the rose-colored sunglasses, dude?
To be able to see the images better, they pop better.
Serpico.
On
Serpico had rose-colored glasses.
Brian, is that the answer you were looking for?
Oh my God.
Yes.
Good.
See things better.
Well, guys, I appreciate you coming on tonight. It was awesome to have you on, and it's amazing. I still can't believe it, but it was great having you guys on the show tonight. Thank you for coming on.
It was an honor.
Yeah, it was an honor, my friend. And I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. I can't wait to witness all this next week.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations again.
Thanks, Denny. Thanks, Dave.
Yep,
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
Pete, are you coming?
I'm there.
He finally got a ticket.
I'm coming to your barbecue too.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You missed the RSVP deadline.
Yes.
We gave your spot away.
I'm Jersey. I'm crashing.
Yeah.
With his glasses, so he knows what house he's going to. So you know, walking to the wrong place.
Yeah. Great to see you guys. Can't wait to see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see you
Thanks,
next
Dave.
week.
Yeah, for real, man. I could not see that stuff.
Wow.
I put the glasses on, and there it was.
Yeah.
I mean, my readers are going everywhere with me right now.
Yeah.
So bad, dude.
So I have them everywhere. I have these are my truck readers.
Oh yeah.
I have my
They're
work
everywhere.
truck
And the
readers.
truck,
I
there's a
have
boat.
my garage readers, and I have the house readers.
Yeah.
Crazy. Reader stuff.
All
Dude,
right.
that was awesome.
That was amazing.
That was awesome to have
Yeah.
Denny on there.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I got to tell him that Biffle story because
Yeah.
that happened and he remembered it.
Well, what
He did
you
remember.
know,
it.
what he didn't say, and neither did you. What was said?
I mean, it was like the intimidation was every curse word you could imagine.
Like every
And
intro to the
I've heard
Dukes
them
of
all.
Hazzard.
I've heard them all because I grew up in a house like my grandfather cursed. I've heard curses since I was 3 years old. Dude, Denny, I mean, it was fuck, you know, every curse word so intimidating, so like just, you know, that the tone, the voice, the posture, the closeness of the boats, that he left. That he used that intimidation to drive him from that entire riprap, a quarter mile of riprap.
It worked.
It worked. And Tommy left and fished another bridge where I think we caught like one, or he caught one or two. I didn't catch any. And then we went flipping docks the rest of the day. And it worked.
So he was a quarter mile away.
Yeah.
Where-
it was a really long,
like an entire
expanse-
South Jersey lake away.
It was a long, expansive stretch of riprap. Very long, expansive. It was longer than my driveway. It was 2 or 3 of my driveways.
Dang.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
And we crack on Biffle like, I want to claim
Here to
the southern part of the
No.
lake to the northern
No.
part of the lake
No.
is all mine.
Nope.
He got away with it.
Oh yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Got Biffle stepping.
Yeah. And it happened, you know. It was great.
Yeah.
It was awesome to see that, you know. It was cool. But it was awesome having Denny on and
Yeah.
Dave. It was super nice.
I mean, just the like when we were young, reading Bassmaster, right? Because there was no internet.
Yeah.
Reading, like, to think he would be congratulating you, you know,
It's so wild.
35,
It's-
30 years down the road. It's
It's
something,
one
you
of
know?
those wild moments of like you can't even believe
Yeah.
it's happened.
Be
you know?
cliche, surreal,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and the guys we've had on this show,
Yeah.
you know,
A lot of guys we read about.
Linder,
It's cliche to be back here right now.
like we had Linder on.
or I mean,
we had,
surreal.
but Brian and I fished with
Wrong
Roland
word.
Martin. Roland Martin at the end of the fishing day pulls out of his pocket a freaking one of these,
Come on.
gives one to Brian. He's like, "You guys drink?"
You guys drink? It was
I look
the
at Brian.
best
I look
moment
at
ever.
Roland. He's like, "Yeah." Reaches in his pocket, and he's got these. He's got
You guys
one.
drink.
He's got one. and
Anybody like to drink?
He gives
Like
he
it's
gives,
prohibition
he
or
gives
something.
Brian one. He goes in his pocket, pulls out another one.
Dang.
Gives me one, puts it down, and he pulls it. He goes to his other pocket, and he's got another. He's fished all day, and he's
And he-
pulling these out of his pocket.
He wears those shorts where the pockets are like trapper
Oh,
keepers
yeah.
on each side, dude.
Dude,
They're
and
like
I'm looking at this thing,
gigantic.
and I'm like, just what you just said
Yeah.
is going through my mind, and I'm like, this is Roland fucking Martin.
Yeah.
I just fished with Roland Martin, and he just gave me a
He's giving me
airplane bottle
shooters.
of fucking
Yeah.
whatever it
Out of
was,
his pocket.
Comfort or whatever it was, and I'm like,
it was Captain. It
Captain.
was Captain Morgan.
And dude, it was warm. It was body temperature.
Yeah,
It was
Roland Martin's
ball
body
sack
heat.
warm,
yeah,
and I was just like,
Tiger blood.
It was never going to
Yeah.
get any better than this.
Yep.
And I'm like,
Breeding
Hell yeah.
temperature.
I'm drinking that.
Wow.
We just
I think it's time for a break.
oh, it's time for a break.
Wait, here's-
Oh yeah, let's
go.
drink that. Yeah.
Come on, Beck. Man up.
I hate cinnamon.
Man up.
Like,
Cinnamon.
I don't mind shooting things.
Congratulations, Mike.
congratulations.
Thank you, Pete.
Cheers, Pete.
HOF.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers, everybody.
Yo, cheers, guys. Love you guys.
Love you.
Oh, hey.
Is that what you and Roland did? Did you just shoot it?
I shot that from ship.
You rolling in BTC.
when was that?
That was a couple years ago.
Oh, that's
I
recent.
call it 2-3 years.
Was that
I call-
pre-COVID
Two. No,
or after COVID?
that was just 2 years ago.
I don't know. I have no sense of time.
Ah, that's pretty bad.
Poor Brian don't even get the cred being with Mike. He's like the lesser athletic Manning brother, you know, like doesn't even get mentioned.
Like the fourth one.
Yeah, the fourth one.
That's
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
not true, though.
You know,
That's not true.
what he went and got merch made and you canceled the show a week later.
No, that's not true. No, that's not true. Like even now, even now, like just at the last iCast, Brian